Hi, everybody. Today we are going to paint some cats and we are going to tune down things a little bit compared to what we've been doing over the past few weeks. We already have a few videos about drawing and painting cats, but in case you've missed them, let's begin again with the basics. We always start with a simple grid because it can be used to shape almost anything. For instance, here I'm using the same grid to draw different cats. And the same principle works for the full bodies as well. With just a basic grid, we can build almost anything. Originally, I thought about approaching this in the same way we did last week, but then I decided to tone down a little because I always try not to complicate things too much here, and I believe I was getting a bit carried away. But because I don't want any of these exercises to feel intimidating or overwhelming for any of you, I want to keep things simple and approachable. Not only because that often makes them easier to follow and more inviting, but also because it can be very satisfying to simplify the world around us, especially when we live in a world that often feels overcrowded and overloaded with everything. So when we manage to strip things back and make them simpler, it almost feels like gaining some kind of superpower. So it's a way to organize and also to understand the world around us. So the idea here is very similar to what we have been doing all along. We are simplifying things. And the only real difference today from the past week is that I decided to simplify it even further and return to our basics. And in this case, I am basically using only two mixes. I just added blue and burnt umber to black to create the dark mix. And I added the same combination of blue and burnt umber to white to create the lighter tone. And that's all that we are going to be using today, okay? Have you ever thought about why do you make art, or why do you want to make art if you don't already? Are you creating for yourself or for others? This is a question that every person asks at some point. For some people, it's all about the audience. They create with others in mind. And for others, it's a deeply personal journey. As for me, I think that as a species, regardless of how isolated we may sometimes feel or how much we sometimes want to be with ourselves, I don't know, sometimes the world just seems to be too much and we need to be in our own, behind our own shoes. We are, in the end, social animals. We look at one another. We respond to one another. Just imagine that something happens to humanity and you are the only person left in the entire world. Or better yet, imagine if you have already been the only person in the world for quite a long time. What things would you still be doing if there were no one else to share them with? Would you still even bother dressing at all? Would you still make plans? Would you still have passions? I'm not only asking who we create for, I'm questioning whether creation even matters without someone to receive it. It's a powerful thought, I think, and it often makes me reflect. So I would invite you to take a moment to think about why you do the things that you do, not only in art, but in life in general. Are those things necessary? Are those just acts of vanity? Do you do them to prove something to yourself? to test yourself, to challenge yourself, to become a better person. Better than who? Better than anyone else, or simply better than who you were before, than who you are now? It's an interesting thing to think about because many people consider making art to be something useless. I am assuming that art is probably not the main activity for most of you watching these exercises. For many of you, I assume it may be just something that you pursue in your spare time, something that allows you to focus on something else for a while, to relax, to challenge yourself. It may not be a priority, but if it isn't a priority, why do you still do it? My suspicion is that art quietly resolves, if not all, then at least many of our internal struggles, even when those struggles don't clearly appear as struggles at all. I want to explore why we feel this impulse to create. Is it about sharing a part of ourselves, finding meaning, or simply being seen? Is it completely natural to want others to appreciate our work, to feel that what we have created has value beyond ourselves? But if we rely too heavily on external approval, we can easily fall into uncertainty and self doubt. Why does this happen so often for us? Perhaps because what we do, not only as human beings, but also as social beings, whether it is art or being a teacher, being a lawyer, being anything that you do in your life, it is such a vulnerable act. We are putting a part of ourselves out there, exposing ideas, exposing feelings, exposing perspectives, and the response, or sometimes the absence of a response, can affect not only how we see our work, but also how we see ourselves. This inner conflict often takes form of a inner voice, a persistent whisper that questions our choices, our abilities. What if they don't like it? What if it's terrible? What if I am terrible? What if what I'm doing is not good enough? What if I am not good enough? That voice can push us to improve, but it can also hold us back with doubt. Why am I doing this? Is this just showing off? Am I trying to prove that I can make something? Is it simply so that people will tell me I am good at anything? Am I chasing validation, approval? Maybe part of it really is about feeding our own ego. Look at me. I am an artist. I might be a successful lawyer, doctor, teacher, cook, or anything else, but I am also an artist. And not only that, I am a good one. I can tell stories. I am different. I am special. Sometimes we are drawn to things that reflect something that in our minds we failed to accomplish elsewhere, or perhaps something we simply never allowed ourselves to try. Through creativity, we attempt to reveal ourselves as our true selves, directing and starring in our own story. But at every turn, we often find ourselves between two main desires: wanting to create something meaningful and wanting approval. We want respect. We want validation. And that inner voice keeps asking its own questions. And again, it's all questions, all questions, all questions. What if I have chosen something else? What if I had done this different? What if this? What if that? What if anything? So this voice is not only a reminder of the choices in front of us, it is also a embodiment of our insecurities and our desires. And for many people, it becomes a constant companion, sometimes motivating, but sometimes just toxic. Sometimes it pushes us forward, but at the same time, it feeds our insecurities. They are like, I don't know, like a ghost that quietly haunts us, influencing our actions and our inner conflicts. Usually it operates beneath the surface, subtly shaping our decisions, and we keep telling the voice to stop. The more we try to ignore that inner voice, the louder it becomes. In my case, the primary audience in my mind is myself, which might sound completely opposite to what I was saying earlier. And I recognize that contradiction, okay? But what I have learned from experience is that I want something in my life that I look forward to working on every day, something I can explore. So creating becomes both personal and shared. It's not only about making something for others to see, it is also about discovering something within myself. It is a way of understanding myself while sharing my journey with others. And I believe that happens with most people. Making something new always has value. It is one of the ways we connect, we reflect, and we grow. This whole thing is a journey filled with discovery and struggle, denial, pursuit, victories, defeats, emotions, expectations, and a constant search for meaning. However, making art for me is a path to discovery and self discovery as well. So if I know exactly what I am doing from the very beginning, I believe the work will become dull because I need to allow space for a process of learning and discovery within the process and within myself also. Something that the work itself gradually reviews. So ideally, by the end of the process, I am able to say something that I would never have understood at the beginning. I feel the same way about these very exercises that I share with you every week. I began, of course, with a general idea, but it is not completely formed. The process itself helps me uncover new thoughts and understand myself a little bit better. In that sense, it becomes both a personal journey and a way of connecting with others who might feel something similar to what I do feel. So perhaps that is the real value of creating, discovering ourselves piece by piece through every work we make. Okay, so after the pieces were finished and dry, I decided to apply a soft wash of burnt umber because this helps unify the compositions even further. I also removed the flowers in three of the compositions and painted over them because they simply didn't work. And I think that they look better, without the flowers. The flowers worked in two of them, but not in all of them. So still, I think that experimenting is always worthwhile. Trying things out is always the best part of the process. So these are the results of what we have done today. I hope you've learned something new today and that you can see that creating is deeply human. It is a personal and shared experience, selfish and selfless at the same time. It is perfectly natural to want connection. It is part of being human, whether we create for ourselves, for a few close friends, or for a wider audience. And as always, keep on practicing and thank you for joining us.